Am I the a-hole for canceling my wedding because my family and my in-laws wouldn't shut up about it? I'm being called a bridezilla left and right about this, and my fiancé is called a simp for apparently doing as I say, despite that being a mutual decision. My family and my fiancé's family have tried to have a say at our wedding in every aspect possible. How many guests we will invite, who we will invite, what kind of suit my fiancé will wear, what kind of wedding dress I'll wear, what kind of venue we will book, what kind of food we will have, what kind of music we will play, what song we will have our first dance to. Everything we've planned our families always judge, and aren't pleased and always have something negative to say. Planning our wedding has been more stressful and less fun for that reason. I feel like I can't have the wedding I want to have because they'll find a way to ruin it. At this point, I don't enjoy any of it, and neither does my fiancé. We try to make our boundaries clear with our family several times, and they'd get mad and somehow got worse whenever we tried to set boundaries. So, my fiancé and I both decided we will not have our wedding, and we will just go to the courthouse with our two best friends as witnesses. And that's it. No parties, no venues, no receptions. Just us, with our dream dress/suit and our two best friends. And after that, we'll book a restaurant to have some dinner with our 10 closest friends. That's all. Our families are continuing with the guilt tripping. Even my sisters, who used to remain neutral and even supported me sometimes, are now saying I'm taking it too far. And I'm manipulating my fiancé about this too. They keep insulting us and telling us to change our decision. We demanded an apology from their behavior and that we might have our wedding. But they refused to see why they should apologize. We said we stand firm. Are we the a-holes? Edit. Many people are asking who's paying. Our parents are helping us a lot financially, but we are also paying. Our parents use the financial support as a way to control our decisions. We wouldn't stand for that. They shouldn't offer to pay if they couldn't respect that the final decisions would be our own. For example, my in-laws refused to pay for the dress I picked because it was beige and not white. Our parents demanded we uninvite friends of ours to make room for relatives and friends of their own, and many other things. Now for the top comments. Not a-hole. We had our dream elopement. It was fantastic. Best decision ever. Dressed up how we wanted, had a photographer. It was great. The best wedding is having total control. Hate when families hold their contribution over your head. Either help or don't help, but do not dictate if you are going to help. Not a-hole. Simple as, if they continue, maybe actually have your dream wedding, both of yours, and don't invite anyone who wants to take that away from you. That would mean no family at all, which right now doesn't seem like a bad idea, but I can't handle any more drama. That's why my fiancé and I decided to be low-key about it now. If I don't invite my parents and he doesn't invite his, then our extended families will side with our parents because they have the mindset that no matter what parents do, they're your parents and you should respect them regardless. So they'd stand by our parents and not attend our wedding as a way to protest. Respect is not blind obedience. Their need to control and show off to friends is their first priority, and a wedding and its meaning secondary. Don't touch their money if it comes with veto authority. Have your private wedding and break bread with those who support you. Not a-hole. That's exactly what we are doing. There was no point in having a wedding if we couldn't enjoy even a bit of it. Not a-hole. You are making the right decision. But just a piece of advice, throw out a dummy date for the courthouse wedding. Like, say, if you are getting married on Friday, June 6th, actually get married on Thursday, June 5th. Because your family sounds exactly like the kind of people who would crash the courthouse and cause drama. Next story. Am I the a-hole for keeping an inheritance from my ex-husband's homophobic family? I, 33, female, married my childhood best friend John, 33, male, when we were 22. I knew he was gay, and we decided to get married for several reasons. Taxes, convenience, to keep his family from finding out, etc. I got along with his family, who loved me. John had med school paid for by his family. I didn't have a job, and instead became a full-time caretaker for his maternal grandparents, who when we first got married were 85 and 87, and were dealing with multiple health problems. John's family supported us both financially through John's medical training. Once John got his MD and finished residency 3 years ago, he decided to come out to his parents. We got divorced, but we decided against telling the family that I knew all along. John's parents cut him off completely when he moved in with his boyfriend, basically disowning him. His grandparents weren't told about him being gay. Everyone was pretty much in agreement that it wasn't a good idea, as they were quite fragile physically and mentally at this point. But they knew he divorced. And whereas John used to come see his grandparents frequently, because his parents had disowned him, John decided to pretty much limit contact with his entire family and never really visited or called. On the other hand, I had been his grandparents' main caretaker for so long that I, 1, didn't have any other career training to support myself. 2, figured it would make sense for me to continue being their caretaker, as they were rapidly declining and didn't want them to adjust poorly to a lot of new changes. I moved into his grandparents' home with them. While I was angry at John's parents for their treatment of him, I still loved his grandparents who had always been kind to me. When they passed within a few weeks of each other, his grandfather ended up willing almost their entire estate to me, about $12 million in assets, while John and his mom each received about $50,000. John and I discussed it, and I felt it was fair that he received a higher proportion, and were both happy and comfortable with how we divided it. His parents, on the other hand, had expected to receive the bulk of the inheritance and accused me of mistreating his grandparents and manipulating them into willing almost everything to me. Apparently, they had made some business decisions, assuming they would receive the money. They also argued that they would have gone ballistic if they knew John was using their money to fund his lifestyle. I honestly hadn't thought of their will at all when they passed. It had never come up, but I feel John deserves the money after the way his parents treated him. And John tells me I deserved to be taken care of after I spent more than a decade of my life caring for his grandparents. Are we the a-holes for keeping the inheritance when his parents had made plans based on their assumptions of the inheritance? Not a-hole. Play stupid homophobic games, win stupid homophobic prizes. Even if John's parents were decent people, Opie spent a decade caring for them. And deserves whatever she felt was right to give her, which in this case I agree with. She gave her 20s to them and was with them until the end. That is far more than John's mother can say she did for them in the last 10 years. Not stay home. The grandparents wanted you to have the money. They deliberately gave their daughter $50,000 so that she can sue you. They were smart old people. I wouldn't be surprised if they knew about John's sexuality all along. Never underestimate people just because they're old. Honestly, I think they did know but never mentioned it. It seems likely his parents told them, or word somehow got out. Sometimes people just know. There were likely obvious clues that even you and your ex couldn't hide. The best kind of people will treat people with kindness no matter what they think about their life choices. I know my ultra-religious grandparents were not thrilled with my wife and I living together before we married, but never complained to us about it. It's likely his grandparents just wanted him to be safe and happy, no matter who he really loved. Not stay home. You took care of them and had no career because of all the unpaid work that you did. I don't know why you gave your ex some money, but that's your decision. He had supported me when I was facing homelessness and married me in part to make sure I would be taken care of. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for uninviting my sister-in-law to my wedding for her trashy behavior? Me, female 24, and my fiancé, 28 male, are getting married in 2 months. His sister, 30 female, is nice enough, but I've always gotten the sense she doesn't like me. She's never been rude, but she just seems uninterested in me. Even so, when our families get together, her and her boyfriend are personable enough. I come from scholars and they don't, so my family liked that she's a nurse. Or so we thought. My cousins, both 34 male, came to town for a visit last week and said they were going to go out that night and they wouldn't be back till way late. They ended up coming back super early. And when we asked, me, my parents, and my fiancé, what happened, turned out they got kicked out of a strip club for taking a picture of a dancer. And it was my fiancé's sister. I was mortified because I never took her for her type. We told fiancé's parents and it was a huge thing. Lots of drama between her and their parents. Eventually, everything calmed down and it became, she's an adult, it's none of our business. This really rubbed me the wrong way, and I told fiancé that I was no longer comfortable with her coming to the wedding. I was met with a lot of resistance, but eventually he agreed. When I called her to explain myself, she blew up at me and told me I was shaming her for something that didn't affect me. I told her it did affect me if she would be bringing a trashy atmosphere to my wedding. We come from money, and the last thing I want is men lining up for services outside a broom closet. And I told her that much. She said she was offended that I suddenly think of her that way, and I told her she was more suited to a bachelor's party than a wedding, and I hung up. Well, ever since then, their family has been telling me how much of a witch I am for telling her what they want. And now my fiancé is starting to say I should reconsider, but I don't think bringing a stripper to a wedding is appropriate. Now for the comments. I come from scholars and they don't. You're the a-hole just for that statement. Are you going to ban your trashy cousins who went to the strip club as well? They'd probably be the first in line for her services should she decide to offer. What the heck does I come from scholars even mean? Does this brain surgeon know that 1, education does not equal intelligence, and 2, even if it did, intelligence is not always hereditary, and smart people have dumb kids all the time? Info. Where does the sister exhibit trashy behavior in this story? The only one acting trashy is you. And the cousins who violated her privacy by taking a picture. You're the a-hole. I'm missing exactly where your sister-in-law exhibited trashy behavior. She has a job she keeps private. Period. You literally had no idea until your family started to creepily sneak pictures of her while they were out drinking and carrying on. Your sister-in-law may work at a club, but your family was kicked out of the same place for being classless and out of line. They were literally too trashy for the atmosphere you're complaining about. But then you decided to dip yourself further into the dumpster fire of trash that is your family by blasting an adult's business to her parents as if she's a little kid caught skipping school. Was the tattletale nonsense necessary about something that's clearly zip all of your business? And again, while your sister-in-law is busily doing nothing offensive, you're worried your family and friends are so completely trashy themselves that they'll be lining up at a wedding, no less, for services no one has even offered, like a pack of crazed animals. What kind of people are you related to that this is going to be a problem? I don't know what kind of scholars you've got hanging around, but I have literally never, ever had to worry my family or friends are going to sexually assault other people en masse. You're the a-hole. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for letting my daughter wear a tiara to my cousin's wedding? My 32 female daughter Chloe, 4 female, has a fascination with princesses. She loves the color pink, wears only dresses, and has an array of tiaras she wears everywhere except at preschool where she can't, but she does have it in her backpack. My cousin 33 male Alex, fake names, invited us to his wedding, which was this past Saturday. Chloe was excited because she got to dress up and stay dressed up the entire time. She also couldn't wait to see the bride's dress. She asked if she could wear her princess tiara, and I said of course. We got to the wedding on time. However, the start time was delayed for unknown reasons. 15 minutes after it was supposed to start, one of the bridesmaids came out and told me that the bride Jen, 31 female, was refusing to come out because my daughter was wearing a tiara. I thought she was joking, but she wasn't. Apparently, the bride was also wearing a tiara and wanted to be the only one wearing it. I told the bridesmaid that Chloe loves tiaras and always wears them. The bridesmaid said not today, she isn't, and told me it needed to be removed. I said no. The bride is a grown woman and was being petty over a child's tiara. The bridesmaid left for a couple minutes and then Alex himself came out. He told me to leave. I asked why, and he said because I won't tell Chloe to take off her tiara. I said this was ridiculous, and Alex said it's not my wedding. And when I get married, then Chloe can wear one to mine. But that I'm officially uninvited regardless. Others around me told me to just take it off, and I wouldn't. Alex's mom came over and escorted us out. Chloe was upset and crying because she feels she did something wrong. And I'm upset because I can't believe someone would be jealous over a literal 4-year-old. I also feel bad because Chloe was really looking forward to seeing Jen's dress because she loves wedding dresses. But literally no one is on my side. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Someone asked if my cousin has a mental illness. I said no, but the bride has Asperger's, and they said that's important for you all to know. You seriously need to parent up and teach your kid that there's a time and place for indulging your inner princess, and a time and place for sitting back, following dress codes and letting other people shine. For example, at their own goddamn weddings. You were asked nicely, but were petulant and entitled. You caused this. It's not over a child. It's over your lack of parenting. There's a reason nobody's on your side. You're the a-hole. I agree with this. 4-year-olds should be taught time and place for attire. She didn't wear a tiara to preschool as mentioned by the OP, so a wedding is also a specific occasion. I personally would find it cute if I were the bride, but everyone is different, I guess. I think the bride's wishes, while over the top here, should be respected. Yeah, wedding conventions are stupid, so it's a frequent gray area here. But no one's saying OP's an a-hole for thinking the bride is being extra. She's an a-hole for digging in her heels for no good reason, refusing to teach her daughter an age-appropriate lesson about etiquette, and ruining her daughter's day on top of upsetting the bride. I'd bet they were quick to yeet her because stuff like this is part of a larger pattern. You're the a-hole for not complying with the bride's request/demand. It is their wedding and their rules. There is a reason literally no one is on my side in this, because you were wrong. Ruined her daughter's opportunity to enjoy herself, and for what? The kid would have gotten over the removal for a tiara in minutes. So much more upsetting to have to leave the wedding and not get to do the thing she was actually looking forward to, which was admiring the bride. Nobody told Opie that pick your battles doesn't mean pick every battle. Not only that, but the daughter at 4 years old had a social graces thought to ask her mom before the wedding if it was okay to wear it. How hard is it to say, "Oh honey, I'm sorry. I thought it would be alright, but mommy made a mistake, and bride would like you to take it off." Like how you don't wear it at preschool. You can have it with you, but let's not wear it right now. Sorry, but you're the a-hole. Yes, it was absolutely over-the-top idiotic for the bride to obsess over a 4-year-old wearing a tiara. But once she told you to take it off, you should have removed it. She's the bride, it's her party, she makes the rules. Yes, your daughter would have been disappointed to take it off, but I guess she was even more disappointed to miss the whole event.
Update. Would I be the a-hole if I go on a trip that my cousin organized on the same day of my father's wedding with a woman he started dating 2 weeks later of my mother's death? Original post. My 18 female father is going to marry his girlfriend next week, a day before my cousin's 21 female birthday. My mother died 4 years ago, and almost 2 weeks later, my father was dating that woman. I was grieving, and I had to tolerate a total stranger in the house. My father told me that he met that woman at work. The doubt that she has always been my father's mistress is always in my head, but I don't know. I don't like her anyways. My cousin organized a trip to the beach which will last a week. It was given to her by my aunt and uncle because she won a scholarship overseas in a college. My aunt and uncle won't go to the wedding. Some of my other cousins won't go to the wedding to go to the trip too. My cousin arranged the trip entirely on purpose to ruin my father's wedding since my mother was her godmother. My father was mad at her, but my cousin told him she's not going to cancel her trip for a second wedding. Or in her literal words by text, "I'm much more interested in seeing the grass grow than in your wedding." Today my father found out that I will be going to the trip too, and he's totally mad at me. He even cried telling me that everyone is punishing him for finding love. I asked him if my mother was the love of his life. They always used to say those kinds of things, and he kept crying saying that I don't understand because I'm too young. He says that every time I try to talk about something serious with him, even when I want to talk about politics or important things, it's his way of shutting me up. He says he just finally found love, his words. He said his girlfriend is the real love of his life. Good for him, I guess. My mother always said he was the love of her life until the last day, and because of his words, my mother was never the love of his life. I think I feel sad to think about how my mother would feel if she hears my father say that he finally found real love, when in my mother's eyes and words, he was her soulmate. Can you really find the love of your life in 2 weeks? I understand that grief is different for everyone, but who grieves spending Christmas with your new girlfriend and not with your daughter who lost her mother? He neglected me since that day even if I was a teen. Everything was always about how he feels and wants. I told him that I will go on a trip and I don't want to attend his wedding, and he kept crying. My paternal grandmother called me to pray and tell me that I'm being unfair to my father who just found love again. But I just don't want to go or be near him. I stopped being close to my dad long time ago. That my perception of what a father figure is has been almost totally erased from my mind. Edit. My parents didn't have an open marriage or anything like that. My mother always made it clear that she would divorce if she thought the marriage was bad or getting weird. I'm sure that in her eyes, she had a healthy and normal marriage. We were all shocked with the fact that my father introduced his girlfriend when we were all grieving. It's something no one understands to this day. My mother died really quickly from a virus/bacteria. She died within a month and a few days, and no one expected her to die. Not even my mother expected her health to get like this. She believed to the last day that she would live. The person who took the most care of her in the hospital was my grandmother. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. Do what you want. If you don't respect the relationship, why would you want to go anyways? Besides, I get the feeling this woman was involved with your dad before your mom passed. Because who the heck moves someone in 2 weeks after their wife dies? A cheater, that's who. He's just mad that everyone sees through his BS. I wouldn't go either. She didn't move into the house instantly, but she went every day and stayed overnight. It was really uncomfortable. I always suspected that she was my father's mistress, but I never asked, because my father would deny it anyway. Trust your gut. You're probably right about her being the mistress. Unfortunately, I'm sorry for your loss, OP. Be with your family and let your dad sulk. He brought this upon himself. Gosh, he abandoned you when you were 14 years old to spend Christmas with his new girlfriend? Right after you lost your mother, and mind you, his wife? Not the a-hole, but he sure is. When Christmas came, he decided to go on a trip with his girlfriend without even inviting me, because I never liked Christmas anyways. I spent that Christmas with my mother's family. Wow, I don't know your father, but I hate him. You're not the a-hole. Go enjoy your trip. Not the a-hole. Who leaves their grieving child alone on Christmas? Then he wants to cry about love? He can kick rocks with his love. Now for the update. Thanks to the comments, that day I decided to talk with my father and ask him if he cheated on my mother. I got really anxious and just needed to know the truth because it was something that made me feel really nervous. After insisting in hearing him cry, he confessed to me that he had been talking and going to places with his girlfriend/friend for a while my mother was still alive and even before she got sick. My mother didn't know that my father had that kind of relationship, and it was all behind her back. He showed me some things his girlfriend shared in her IG at that time. She knew he was married. When my mother died, his girlfriend, at the time friend, approached him to comfort him. He didn't say exactly when, but I guess that obviously it was between those 2 weeks. I want to think it wasn't the day my mom passed away, because it was unexpected and we were all too busy. My father told me that it was the first time they had physical contact, but he always felt guilty about his friendship with that woman. I'm not very familiar with the subject, but I think it's what people call emotional cheating. I only know that he kept it a secret because he knew he was doing something bad. I asked him if he and my mother were having marital problems, and he said no, not at all. According to my father, his friendship with his girlfriend was something he planned to keep as a secret forever when my mother was alive and healthy. Father told me that he thought he loved my mother until he kissed his girlfriend and decided that we only live once. So that's why he took her home just 2 weeks after my mom died and did everything he wanted with her. My father's logic was that his job gave him a week of mourning. So according to him, 2 weeks was enough mourning for me. I told him that while he fulfilled his fantasies, I was alone in our home. And he kept saying the same things like, OP, you were almost 15 years old. You were already a woman. At your age, I was already working, blah, blah, blah. I don't think I'll ever get to that level of maturity to understand his mind. I asked him that if he thought about cutting off contact with his girlfriend if my mother found out, and he said something like, no, I wouldn't cut contact with her. It was just an innocent secret, and your mother never found out. I told him my mother would cut off his balls if he heard him say that, and he started crying again. But anyway, all of this doesn't change anything. The result is still the same. A father who neglected his daughter. I said a lot of things to him. I've been going to the psychologist for years, so I know how to manage my feelings. But at that moment, I told him everything I've been keeping to myself and he cried again. Isn't that weird? Cry when you're the one who screwed up? I only feel bad for my mother and myself. And for now, I warned him that I am going to rent the house to make money and cut off contact with him when he leaves the house with his girlfriend. He didn't complain about that, because at least he always agreed that the house is mine. I'm not going to leave him homeless or anything like that. I'm not going to his wedding. I'm not going to invite him to my wedding in the future either. I don't care if my future kids doesn't have a grandparent or anything like that. I think years ago I lost both parents, but luckily I have my family. I see myself as a person who had to mature quickly. My mother left me in charge of my father, but my father maybe decided to bury his paternal instinct next to my mother. Or maybe he never had one. He was always a regular father, so I don't care if I don't see him again. I don't feel anything for my father's girlfriend, but I just don't like her. Because I would never date a man who neglected his daughter, and she's going to marry a man like that. Anyways, we never argued and I don't hate her at all. I hope she's my father's final real love. There are people who commented saying that I was making my father look bad on purpose and that I was probably a brat who has a bad behavior, just because I'm a teen and my mother died. I don't understand what kind of education those people had, but being a teenager doesn't mean that we let ourselves be carried away by our feelings. Sometimes a minor can speak much calmer and in control than an adult, and that doesn't mean that I want to play myself as a saint. It's just how my feelings work. That doesn't mean I wasn't suffering because I didn't yell at him. Also, a random person posted my story on another subreddit making fun of me and saying that I'm making myself look like an angel. I know it's the internet, but it's sick to make fun of the people with the problems. I really don't know where I went wrong for my father to prefer to forget that he has a daughter. I don't know what I could have done wrong. Maybe the key was to yell at him and make a tantrum to get his attention, as some comments said, but I stopped caring long time ago. Your father is disgusting. He was cheating on your mom for years. No, at 15 you weren't an adult, and even if he had been, you were still his child, and you needed him. And where was he? Living it up with his girlfriend. You were right to tell him how you feel, and I would absolutely go no contact with him. He made his choice. I love how OP is too young and doesn't understand when her father wants to dismiss her and shut her up. But when she tells him off for leaving her alone, she was almost 15 and already almost a woman, and he was working at that age. Like, pick one, a-hole. I hope OP never has to speak to him again. He can take his too late crocodile tears and his homewrecker girlfriend with him on the way out. Yeah, that part. Of course, it kept moving the goalposts on OP about what she's apparently too young to understand, but old enough to go out and do. He's great at emotional manipulation, that's for sure. OP's dad is disgustingly selfish and self-centered. I'm glad a family took his stand against his abhorrent cheating butt. Cousin is a boss. I think she helped to give the rest of the family the gumption to tell OP's dad to go screw himself. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my friend's wedding because she uninvited me? Okay, so here's the deal. My friend, let's call her Sarah, and I have been tight since high school. We've been through everything together. Breakups, makeups, you name it. So when she got engaged, I was over the moon for her. Fast forward to a few months before the wedding. Sarah sends out the invitations and I'm psyched to RSVP. But then out of nowhere, she texts me saying that she's had to cut down the guest list due to budget constraints, and unfortunately, I didn't make the cut. I was devastated. I get that weddings are expensive at all, but to uninvite me after we've been friends for so long? Ouch. Fast forward again to the wedding day. I see all these photos on social media and it looks like a fairy tale. But here's the kicker. Sarah texts me later that week asking for money to help cover the costs of the wedding. Apparently, they went over the budget, and she is asking all the guests who didn't attend to chip in. I was floored. Not only did she uninvite me, but now she expects me to foot the bill for a wedding I didn't even get to go to? I told her no way. I refused to pay a single dime. But now she's saying I'm being selfish and unsupportive. Am I the a-hole here? Or is Sarah out of line for expecting me to pay for her mistake? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, and I hope you know that. I would stop this friendship entirely. Send her a few laughing emoticons/gifs, and then block her. One of the tackiest things I've ever heard. Thank you for your support and understanding. It's been a roller coaster of emotions dealing with this situation. To add a bit more context, Sarah and I had always been there for each other, so her decision to uninvite me really caught me off guard. I tried to rationalize it, thinking maybe she was under a lot of stress or pressure to cut costs, but it still hurt nonetheless. I don't want to cut her off, as she helped me through some tough times. Is there anything else I can do in this situation? No problem. I normally don't advise people to troll people, but in this case, I would personally troll her in the most childish of ways with laughing emoticons and memes. Not saying you should. Wild guess, but you must have also helped her through tough times. So I'd say you're probably even or more than even. This friendship will never be the same. You will resent her for uninviting you. She will resent you for not paying. And focus on making new friends or spending more time with other people. Stop clinging to this fake friendship. No, you're not. Asking for money, especially from people who didn't get invited, is one of the most absurd things I've ever heard in my entire life. It's even worse. OP was invited, then got cut, then Googled at the wedding photos on social media, and then got hit up for money. I guarantee OP is the only uninvited guest who was also sent a demand for money. Otherwise, Sarah would surely get a clue when everyone refused to pay. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to go to AA meetings as a condition of my in-laws letting us have their second home and opting to move out of state instead? About 4 years ago, I developed an alcohol problem. It took over my life like it did for a lot of people during the pandemic. I was going through multiple boxes of wine in a week. What was honestly very shocking to me was that my husband didn't realize how often I was drunk, sitting next to him. When I first came to him to tell him I needed help, he was confused. I had done some effort to conceal my drinking, but I figured as my husband, he had to have at least known. Apparently not. 6 months ago, I finally started to seek help from a qualified medical professional. I tried an AA meeting and quickly learned that it just wasn't for me. I know it's great for a lot of other people, just not for me. I preferred to work with my addiction counselor and evidence-based support group led by a medical professional. My in-laws are aware of my problem. My mother-in-law wanted my husband to leave me and take the kids. They are both of the mindset that alcoholics have to go to AA. Otherwise, they won't get better. We've tried to explain to them that it's an outdated perspective that doesn't take into consideration the many alternatives. They don't care. We're finally in a better place and ready to find a long-term home. In-laws offered to give us their second home, but their condition is that I must go to AA meetings. As I've said, it is not for me. My husband agrees with me that it's a non-starter. The other part of this is the logistics of all that property exchange or buying, but this isn't about that. When we broke the news to the in-laws, they hit the roof. They were furious that we dare reject their offer, especially because it means that we will move away from them due to the cost of living here. We're going to move a state away, a 4-hour drive. I think it'll be a wonderful new start for all of us. Well, my mother-in-law has turned this into a personal thing against her, that I'm taking her grandkids away from her, that I'm choosing alcohol over the family, etc. She rants about me all day and night on Facebook, telling everyone that I'm a nasty falling down drunk and all that. My husband is perfectly happy with our plan. He wants me to be happy and healthy so I can be a happy and healthy mom to our kids. But part of me really wonders if I'm just being stubborn. Am I the a-hole? You sound like you're a quiet drinker and one day just realized it became a problem. As you mentioned, your husband was surprised when you told him. There weren't drunken fits of rage. You were just drunk most of the time, which is a problem indeed. AA wasn't for you, but you didn't say, well, at least I tried and got back to drinking. No, you looked for something that actually did help. Listen to your guts. They do a very good job dealing with your mother-in-law too. You were not stubborn here. She was trying to control you. Turned out it was a bad idea, mother-in-law. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Hers is now a 4-hour drive to her grandchildren. Not the a-hole. You made some very smart decisions. Hug your husband. He is great. Agree 100%. That house comes with a lot of strings. What other ultimatums are they going to give you? I doubt it will stop there. Get free. I wouldn't want to live near someone who treated me like that. Having to see them all the time. Advice? Make sure your new home does not have a dedicated guest room. I got out of a lot of uncomfortable situations by not having a comfortable room for someone to show up and stay and tell me how to raise my kids, and decide to stay another week and get up early and rearrange my cupboards. Not the a-hole. Honestly, I'd never accept something like this with conditions, even if the conditions were reasonable, because they very well may be subject to change. Who knows if you have to go to AA will become other demands. Do what's best for you and your family. Update. Am I the a-hole for leaving my wife over a computer? Original post. I, 26 male, have been married to my wife Emma for 4 years. She was a social work major who I met in one of my gen ed classes. I explained to her I was a mechanical engineering major. She then asked if I could tutor her in math, and that's how we began dating. Afterwards, I decided to get my master's in Japanese to help me gain more career opportunities. My wife thought it was a silly idea and said she wouldn't be funding it, so then we decided to keep our finances separate. It wasn't a big deal since I was still working anyways. I just had less free time. So, she was making more than me during this time. It paid off, and I recently landed a high-paying job, and with that came more stress due to me having to travel to Japan often. I've really been wanting to get into gaming, so I invested in computer parts costing around $1,500. Once I took the parts out of the box, my wife noticed the receipt and asked how I could be irresponsible with my money. She assumed I still made the same amount, but when I told her that I make triple that amount now, she began giving me the silent treatment. During this time, I began to notice my things were going missing. I wanted to go fishing with some friends one time, and when I was looking for my rods, she must have noticed and said she had given them to her uncle. I told her not to take my stuff without asking, but didn't mind too much because they were old, so I just bought some more. Another time, I was about to go to the gym and I was looking for my pre-workout. I always keep 3 jars. I luckily had a can of Monster and that helped. I asked my wife when she got home from work and she said she gave them to her cousin. I asked her to reimburse me because they cost $50 a jar, and she said I make enough to replace them and just ignored me for the rest of the day. One day when she thought I was asleep, she was talking to someone on the phone, explaining how she's going to move her parents into our house. She hadn't explained this to me. We only have 3 rooms. One is her office, one is my office/game room, and the other is our bedroom. She told the person on the phone, who I assume is her sister, that she's going to give my gaming setup to her brother to make room and that I'll get over it eventually. So today I left work early to catch her in the middle of her plans. And when I walked in our apartment, her and her brother were then placing everything into a box. I asked what was going on, and my wife, whose face was pale, said she was cleaning when her brother came by. I asked him did he plan on taking my computer. Of course he denied. So I went into the room to get the iPad we share. And I looked through the texts on there, and it clearly shows my wife telling him when to pick it up, and to deny that he had it. I told him to get out, and asked her why does she think she's so entitled to my stuff. I've never yelled at her, and I guess this scared her because she began to cry. She ended up packing a bag and went to stay with her sister. While she was out, I picked up a lock from my office. Her sister texted me calling me an a-hole. I'm beginning to think I could have handled this better. I'm looking for advice. Now for the top comments before reading the update. You're not leaving her over a computer. You're leaving her for repeatedly stealing and lying to you. Get the heck out. Stealing, lying, making major life decisions without you, not being supportive of you when you decide to get more education, and then punishing you when you get a good job as a result, not respecting you as a human being. Yeah, saying leaving her over a computer is a ridiculous way to put it. The computer is just the straw that broke the camel's back. The room thing would be my breaking point. Let him move in, cause I'm out of here. Hopefully you can afford a monthlies. Not the a-hole, but your soon-to-be ex is a spiteful bee. Put everything but the necessities in a paid storage unit and cut your losses with this horrible person. Not the a-hole. Sounds like she doesn't respect you. Maybe also a bit bitter, as it sounds she got really funny once she learned you were earning more than she thought. Agreed. She mocked him for taking courses to learn Japanese to better his job prospects. When it played out exactly as he knew it would, she got petty. He made her look like a moron without meaning or trying to, and she took the vindictive road about it. Now for the update. After about a week staying at her sister's house, Emma called me and asked if we could meet up. I agreed and we met at a park. She apologized for everything and said she thought she was doing what was best for everybody. I asked what if I just gave her expensive makeup to my sister. She admitted that she would be upset. I then asked why did she think it would be any different for me. She didn't have a reason, and her sister told her how unfair she was being to me. We decided to give it another chance and she moved back in. It was going good until she started moving her things into my office. I asked her what she was doing, and she explained how she needed a room for her parents. I told her no, and that's not happening. I grabbed her things and placed them back into her office. I told her that they could move in, but my space has to remain untouched. On top of that, we need to determine how bills are going to be paid if they stayed. She called me a selfish jerk, and then ran back to her sisters. I guess her sister told her she was being inconsiderate once again, and apparently they got into an argument because the sister refuses to take their parents in and said she's tired of hearing about her problems. I agree with her. Her sister has 4 kids. Her sister called and told me everything and said that Emma went to her parents' house. I tried to call her, but she ignored my phone calls for 2 weeks. So I decided I couldn't live like this, filed for divorce, and handed to her at her parents' house. She called and begged me to forgive her. I told her I'm not sure if I can. She refused to sign it until we go to counseling, which I refused, and said she had 2 weeks to suggest that. So now I live alone. She still refuses to sign the papers, but that doesn't stop the divorce. It just makes it harder. You know, your wife has not learned anything, has not changed as you promised, and still feels entitled to your money and your things. She's disrespectful, uncommunicative, and frankly quite mean. Stand your ground. You're doing the right thing, not the a-hole. She had a problem supporting Opie while he was taking steps to advance his career, which fortunately he didn't need. However, has no problem with stealing from him once his hard work paid off. Good for Opie for getting away from her. I mean, if we were just dating then, I would consider it, because I have my own loans to pay off and bills to pay and other responsibilities. But if we were married, then I would probably create a plan to help as much as possible with his studies. However, if I didn't support him financially because we're just dating, then I wouldn't start being a witch once I find out he makes triple than I, or make major life-changing decisions. If anything, I would be happy and won't ask to change a thing, since it was his money and hard work that provided for him. So she didn't change at all and was trying to do what she wanted at your expense. Yeah, get that divorce done. She's a POS. She wanted to live with her parents, and now she can in their house. What doesn't get explicitly spelled out in these posts, but I think is a factor is that she refused to fund his language lessons, resulting in them keeping their finances separate. Then she simultaneously found out that she was wrong. It wasn't silly, and that since he didn't tell her about the financial change, he must plan to continue keeping the finances separate. Basically, she didn't like reaping what she'd sown, and her solution to this was to secretly take things away from him. Now put that behavior into context them eventually becoming parents. This is a don't walk, run situation. Bullet bomb dodged by Opie. Minimizing her insane red flags, no accountability, and holding insane grudges over his reasonable responses. This woman's malfunctioning nightmare. Not the a-hole. Block her and her whole family. She's not mature enough to be married and has obvious issues with manipulation and communication. Leave her out of your life. You will be happier without her and eventually find someone who acts like an adult. Last story. Update. Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my fiancé due to my mother? Original post. So this situation is just a mess all around. So me, 26 male, and my now ex-fiancé, 27 female, had been dating for a little over 4 years when I asked her to marry, and she said yes. Now here's the problem. As we were planning about the new house we were going to buy, I talked to her about a room for my mother, 60s female, as she would live with us after we got married. I had discussed with her a lot of times when we were dating that my mom would live with us, because simply put, I am an only child, and my mom raised me as a single mother after she divorced my abusive father. She never had a new boyfriend, nor did she ever remarry. Her entire life was dedicated to raising me alone, and also, me and my mom are each other's only living relative. We have no family besides each other. My fiancé said that she did not want my mother living with us, and when I asked about why she didn't say anything when we were dating, she said that she thought I'd get over it, and we could put her in a home. And this, I absolutely refused. I was furious because my mom had always treated her as her own daughter and had never been one of those crazy mother-in-laws that are rude and evil. I gave out an ultimatum that if my mother couldn't live with us, we wouldn't get married. And yeah, we broke up. Now, her side of the family and her friends are calling me an a-hole. But I don't think I did anything wrong, since I made it clear when we were dating that my mother would live with us. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Dementia patients need constant attention as the disease progresses. I wouldn't know what your fiancé was imagining, but could you thought that your mother is living alone now just fine? So why have her move in with the two of you? You would lose all privacy. Newly married couples need privacy. Then when the disease progresses, that she would be put in a home. Unless you're extremely wealthy and can hire help caring for a dementia patient is far too much for two people. If there is no way to salvage this relationship with her, then may I say have your mother move in with you now, before you start another relationship. That way, any woman will know exactly what her future will look like with you. Also, you will get a chance to understand what you're thinking of taking on. I still remember the night when I was a teen that my family had an elderly woman pounding at our door in the middle of the night during a raging thunderstorm, screaming that her husband had fallen into the well and we needed to help him. Turned out her husband had died years ago. The poor woman had dementia, and like OP, the family refused to put her in a home where she could get the care and supervision she needed. That poor woman wandered for hours in a massive thunderstorm in her nightgown before coming to our house, desperately trying to find someone to help her husband. OP would be far better off researching the best medical facilities where his mother can get the care she needs than to insist his new bride be forced to share her new home with a dementia patient. Not all care homes are awful, and there are some amazing ones out there that actually recreate a small village for dementia patients, with shops, hair salon, movie theater, everything that allow them to live as close to a normal life as possible while staying safe and cared for. Maybe you can find some sort of duplex where your mother is close but you both have your privacy. It's too late for this woman, and that's fine under the circumstances. But very few women in their 20s and 30s would be happy living with a woman in her 60s who could go on for decades. Edit: I should have mentioned this, but our family has a history of dementia settling in around early 60s, and my mother has started to show signs of forgetfulness. That's why I want to keep her as close as possible. I will be the primary caregiver. She has plenty of savings to cover the cost of her treatment and 2 apartments in her name, one she currently lives in and one we have put up for rent. After moving her in with me, I will sell one of them and will hire a full-time nurse after her dementia starts getting worse. We were never planning on having children, nor did I ever expect her to quit her job or stay at home to take care of my mother. I understand that it'll be tough, and it should be majorly my responsibility, but she raised me through tough times all on her own, and I will not turn my back on her now that it's my time to help her. My mother has only recently started showing signs of dementia. Up until a few years ago, she was doing just fine, but now her health is slowly starting to deteriorate. We are independently wealthy due to my mother founding and then selling her own company. Money will not be an issue and I can easily hire help. Edit 2. You all are correct, but my mother living with us is never the only option I suggested. I understand that what I had was a big ask, so I was ready to buy a 2-story home or something like that. But she just wanted to put her in a home and be done with it. Now for the update. So I talked with my mother about the wedding being cancelled and why it was happening. And well, got a very tight slap across my face. My mother was disappointed with the idea of my ultimatum, and she felt that I was reducing her down to a burden when she wasn't one just yet. It was already stated she'd come live with me and I got married. This was not the way my mother expected me to handle the situation. In her words, I'd just be throwing her hard-earned money in a pit because of my own selfishness, and that she did not raise me to be inconsiderate of my significant other. She explained things to me and showed me my fiancé's perspective in a much clearer light. She said she did want and expect to live with us, but not for forever, and not that soon after I got married. She also said that she would rather go into a specialized care home where the professionals could handle her should her illness get worse and changes who she is. I contacted my fiancé and we talked, and it was all pretty emotional, but it was all for the better. I apologized for my ultimatum and not seeing her perspective better, and she apologized for what she said and that she was wrong for saying that we could put her in a home. She knew how much my mother meant to me, so she admitted that her insinuating we could just drop her in a home was wrong. I was stupid and naive and could not see beyond my own ideas for our future, which is the worst thing I could have done, especially considering my life is going more than just my own from now. We decided that it's best to buy a house and move my mother in with us at least for the time being, so we can still spend some time with her while she's somewhat healthy. And when the time comes when taking care of her is beyond us, we will put her in a specialized care unit for people with dementia close to our home so we can still visit her, as my mother wants. Though we are still looking into the exact details of this plan, we are both coming out of this better partners for each other, though this may take a bit of time. We've also decided to hold off on the wedding and first try to be better partners first, but we are still engaged. Also, we'll be going on a trip around the world soon, so we could live our life as a couple a bit before my mother moves in. I know there'll be challenges, and I know I'm not prepared to handle everything. But more than anything, if I won't be able to take care of my mother in her final moments, then I at least want to spend some time with her while she's still herself. My mother's diagnosis will be next week. I'm hoping that she's just being forgetful due to her age, but if it's that damned illness, then the possible amount of time with my mother is considerably shortened. Thank you all for your comments. I hope such a situation never comes to any of you. When taking care of her is beyond us, I really hope OP is actually capable of recognizing when it starts to become too much. I have a buddy that I work with that moved his elderly mother with dementia into his house. He thought he could keep an eye on her since he works from home. That lasted all of 2 weeks before he decided that he couldn't do it anymore and that she needed to go into a home with specialized care. It was heartbreaking to not only watch her go through something like that, but also his realization that he wasn't going to be able to look after his mom after all. She passed away a few months later. People don't understand how bad it can be and that it's 24 hours a day. We had family friends with a similar situation, and a person with dementia just kept turning on the stove burners when no one was looking. And they can't change their behavior because it's a symptom of something unfixable. My gran wanted to go to a specialized care unit when the time comes after caring for her mother for 6 years. Then she forgot she has Alzheimer's, and she is paranoid now. I'm heartbroken. She has another personality now trapped inside her. Funny how it started as the mother moving in purely because they were close. Then when things got a bit heated, it turned into she's showing signs of dementia. And then by the edit, she can't drive anymore and is thinking of specialized care homes in the update. Once you're at the can't drive phase, you're well and truly past showing signs. The sign is actually as big as the Hollywood sign, except this one lights up with flashing neon colors.